Hey y'all, today we're going to talk about how we can multiply and divide by powers of 10 just by moving the decimal. So let's look at that. The first thing that I would have you do is I would have you write into your journal or write into your notes this chart. We've got when I multiply by blank, I'm going to move the decimal ... When I divide by blank, I'm going to move the decimal ... And the way that we read this chart is we'll say, okay, when I multiply by 1,000, how will I move the decimal? I'm going to write in here my answer. When I divide by 1,000, how will I move the decimal? And by using this chart, we can cheat in the future and we can just move our decimal around without having to worry about doing actual multiplying. Let's see how that works. First, let's fill in the easiest one. When I multiply by 1 or I divide by 1, the number stays the same. Let's check to be sure. 5 times 1 still gives us 5. The decimal used to be at the end of the 5, and now it's still at the end of the 5. When I divide by 1, 5 divided by 1, I still get 5. The decimal used to be at the end of the 5, and now it's the end of the 5. So across here, across the middle, I'm going to write in big letters, nowhere. And because that works for both of the sides, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write it all the way across. It moves nowhere. Okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, let's test out some of these other ones. What if I multiply by 10? What if I multiply by 10? What happens to the decimal if I multiply by 10? Well, let's test it out. When I multiply or divide by 10, our decimal is going to start moving. 5 times 10, I bet all of you know that answer. 5 times 10 is 50. And again, if it's a regular number that I don't see a decimal on, the decimal is just hiding at the end. So how did that decimal move? Well, it looks like I had 5 with the decimal, and it moved 1 time over to the right to make some space for that 0. So I'm going to say it moved to the right 1. When I multiply by 10, I move the decimal right 1. Let's check what happens when I divide by 10. When I divide by 10, I end up with 0.5. On this one, it looks like the decimal moved 1 time to the left. It was right here, and now it moved 1 time to the left. So now, when I divide by 10, I'm going to say that moves to the left 1. All we're doing is we're moving that decimal. Okay, well, 10, that helps out, just moving it right 1 or left 1. What do you think is going to happen for 100? While I erase, I want you to go ahead and I want you to guess, what do you think is going to happen for 100? When I multiply by 100, how many spaces is it going to move? And what direction is it going to move? What about when I divide by 100? All right, so if I multiply 5 times 100, I'm going to end up with 500. 5 times 100 is 500. That looks like I took the decimal that was hanging out here and I moved it all the way down to the end. I moved it over 1, 2 spaces, and I moved it to the right. So I'm going to mark this as right 2. Did you get it right? What about for dividing? What do you think is going to happen? Well, when I multiplied by 10, it moved to the right 1. When I divided by 10, it moved to the left 1. So it's going to follow the same pattern. When I divide by 100, it's going to move to the left 2. So this is left 2. Can you make a prediction as to what's going to happen up here with 1,000? I bet you can. Go ahead and pause the video and take a guess as to what's going to happen with 1,000. At 1,000, when I multiply by 1,000, it's going to move to the right 3. When I divide by 1,000, it's going to move to the left 3. Okay, what about these small numbers down here? The top was really easy, but what about these small numbers down here? What happens when I multiply by not something bigger than 1, but something smaller than 1? What do you guess is going to happen? Pause the video and take your guess. When I multiply by a small number down here, it's actually going to move the opposite direction. So instead of moving to the right 1, when I multiply by 1/10, 1/10 is the opposite side of 10, so I'm going to move it to the left 1. So this one, I'm going to move it to the left 1. And similarly, if I were to divide by 1/10, it's going to move to the right 1. All we've done here is we flipped it from the other side. Because I'm going on the other side of 0, now the other side of 1, now I'm having the other direction. So left 1, if I multiply by 1/100, I'm going to move left 2. If I multiply by 1/1000, I'm going to move left 3. If I divide by 1/100, I'm going to move right 2. If I divide by 1/1000, I'm going to move right 3. Let's see how this might be helpful with 2 examples. So, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to erase over here. And as I erase over here, I want to think about how this could be helpful. Well, instead of multiplying out a really long number, if I had, for example, 125.3, 125 and 3/10. Instead of multiplying that out by 1,000 or 100 or 10 or 1 or 1/10 or 1/100 or 1/1000, instead I can cheat and just move it. So if I know that I wanted to multiply this times 1/10, instead of doing any multiplying, I can cheat. I look at my chart. It says, when I multiply by 1/10, I'm going to move to the left 1. So I'll take this decimal, I'll move it 1 place value to the left, and now I've got my answer. My answer is 12.53. All I've done is I've moved it 1 time to the left because I was multiplying times 1/10. What if I'm dividing by a number? What if I use that same number and I say 125.3, and this time I'm dividing by 100. Again, in order to use my chart, all I have to do is I have to say, okay, I'm dividing by 100, and I match those up to find that I'm going to move my decimal to the left 2. So I'm going to move my decimal 1, 2 spaces to the left. Now it's going to be between the 1 and the 2. So my answer is 1.253, or 1 and 253 thousandths. Hopefully this helped, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye.